Hey, what's going on, guys? Jules here with another reasoning session. Today I'm going to be sharing a passage from the Oracles of Isha, or Isaiah in the English.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
This passage actually was one of the classic ones I learned growing up as a child. And actually my family had a really cool piece of artwork. Someone from one of the churches we were going to at the time made like some really cool calligraphy art. And that actually was one of the first inspirations I had to get me to do some typography art that you'll probably see me talk about in the Joel Fernandez show. But this passage is actually very interesting of what to do when you're facing hardships and when you're just feeling beat up and you feel like you can't move forward. Really, like, what do you do? Everything you do is just meeting with resistance and you're getting exhausted, you're getting weary. Guess what? Source is strength. Source is life. That's the very essence that gives us an experience of reality. That very essence that brings to life our own life experience. But the passage is from chapter 40 and starting at verse 28. It goes, "Have you not known? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, Yahweh, the creator of the ends of the earth, faints not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding." Again, it's driving that point home that source is the source of life. Source is the source of energy. Source is energy. And it goes on to say, he gives power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increases strength. So, if you're feeling weary, like, there's no shame in that. But you got to understand where your true source is. If you're just trying to prop yourself up, every time you have a hardship, every time you think you've been beaten up, every time you've gone through the gauntlet. I mean, how much resistance have we felt on a personal level, on a communal level, just all around over the last year or so? Much more than we have, our whole lives. But really, our whole life is really just buffeting us, trying to give us a thicker skin. But you are going to feel weary from time to time. Even the next verse goes on to say, "Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and young men shall utterly fall." So don't feel bad if you're going through a hard time, but just remember where your source really is. Because they that wait upon Yahweh shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. So no matter what you're doing, no matter what your hardship looks like, no matter what task is on your table, even if you're feeling like, can I go on? Is this worth it? How much more power do I have in me that can actually drive me through this? Guess what? All you got to do is trust Source, because Source has your best interest in mind anyway. But here it exemplifies the point that if you put your trust in the concept that's embodied as Yahweh, which means, what goes around comes around. Whatever seeds you sow, you're going to reap that harvest. So you got to know that people that have sowed negative seeds into the world, their harvest is inevitable. And when you start sowing seeds from your own heart that that you're convicted in your own spirit that are for the benefit of the whole world, you know that you have an anchor to stand on, and you know that you can move forward in strength, and sometimes that just propels you forward like you wouldn't believe. That's all it takes. You don't have to worry about actually seeing the results right away, because you know that you're putting that out into the world. And the more you shed light into the world, I mean, it's like, when you go out and you're in a happy mood, when you're smiling at people, when you're helping people, you get that positive response back, and that builds you up even more. So sowing those seeds reaps a harvest that allows you to sow more of those seeds. But if you're cranky and you go out, people tend to mirror that back to you, and then it's harder to actually elevate past that. So just know where your true source lies. Yes, it might look tough for a while, but just rely on Source to give you some inspiration, to give you some strength, and say, Source, you know what? This is in my heart, and this is what I want to share into the world for the benefit of course, not just myself, but for everybody. and put that out there. And you will see that strength just surge into you. And honestly, the hardships that people have been going through, myself included, guys, I'm on the front lines and I'm doing the inner work. I'm putting my talents out there because I know the world that's coming and I want to actually help create the most of it before we actually get there and it's too late to kind of jump on the bandwagon. But really, the army that's doing this, like if you're watching this video, you're part of that army. And what Source is doing is really raising up a group of eagles and putting us into formation so that we can actually have a strategic vantage point and we can be cunning, we can be shrewd, and we can actually move this whole agenda forward. And mind you, I don't know the whole story, what's coming out of this, but we all play a part, and whatever our talents are, like whatever creative talents you have, just think back, if you're not very creative, think back to when you were a child before institution and all this other stuff beat that out of you. Just tap into Source and realize that Source has a calling for you to actually help build this future world, this utopia, because really we're here to enjoy life. We're not here to be beat up. We're not here to struggle. We're not here to have a hard time. We're here to be in communion with others so that we can actually help build up each other, help edify each other, and actually build and see a world that we knew we were deserving all along, actually live in it, and have some kind of legacy to leave for future generations that will thank us for it and not say, hey, what were you doing when all this corruption was being exposed? So really do your part and just know that Source has your back. Rely on that and you'll actually feel that strength, that energy, that rejuvenation come through. Even when you feel like you can't go on, it will come through and it will see you through. So guys, stay optimistic. We are moving forward, and this world, it's inevitable. So be on the leading edge and you'll be able to see much more of that harvest when it actually comes. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I'll check you in the next reasoning sesh. Joel signing out. Once again, Agape, Salaam, Namaste. Shalom.